Fitzee here, back at it again with another one. A lot of you guys been waiting for this one. This is the VIC100 rust repair. Look at the lovely roof on this. We're going to tackle this today, so stay around. Well, it's back on the VIC100 and it's time to get started in on this cab. Before I mount the cab onto that frame there, there's a few things that I want to address. It is a lot easier for me to stand right here and repair this roof. I have the roof laid on the floor. It's a nice comfortable height. I'm going to turn around now. I'm going to want to do all the repairs on the roof. Not too concerned about the lower repairs. I have one repair over here I want to do before I cut it up. And that's right here on the doorpost. I'd like to repair that before I cut the floors and everything out of it. But the rest of it, this section here, I think I'm going to leave it alone. In around the doors here, there's a bit of surface rust, flaky rust, and I guarantee there's going to be holes there. But I think I'm going to leave all that alone because this stuff here I got wants to repair on the chassis because I have some issues on the other side with the heater. And I want to, I'm going to have to cut a section of the heater out there. The actual vent section, and it takes air from the top, and I want to convert it and change it to make it come from the side. And in order to do that, I'm going to have to go in through here to make the actual hole that I want to put in there to draw the air in. Because on this here, she'll draw air from here. Her heater was mounted on the inside here and drew air from down here and came up through here. So any rainwater, anything ran through here, ran down. I don't want to go cutting into this frame on the bottom side here. I want to keep it just the way it is. So anytime it rains, the water's going to run out here the way it always did. I don't want to get into a problem with cutting the bottom out of this to fit it on the car, and then it rains and inside the cab leaks. That's not going to happen. But that's down the road. Today, we're going to concentrate I want to get this here started. Now, where do you start? Do you do it all? Do you know, what I'm planning on doing is taking this in sections. I have it broke down in my head here. I'm looking at this section here, okay? It has to be repaired. Then I have this corner that's going to be tricky to do. So I'm going to take that in another section. And then I'm going to take the front cross here. Might break it into two pieces yet. I don't know. I'm just making this simple. And then I'll do the same thing over here. I'll take sections here and sections here. Now over on this side here, I got to deal with this strip rail. She's a bit thin. I'm going to save this and reuse what I can and just repair it. Because the way this drip rail goes on these is the drip rail is welded on. You see it here. The drip rail is welded on to the inner frame here. And this is how the actual drip rail is held in place. And that's all gone on the other side. So I got to rebuild the lower section of this here. Now, this one here is not going to be your typical repair from me. This here, you would cut this out. You would sandblast all this. You know, you do all the repairs on the inside. Then you turn around and then you treat it. And then you make your outer panel. Then you do the cut and bolt along here, weld it all in. I'm not going at that, people. This is just a fun project for me. This truck to me is not worth saving. Maybe sometime down the road, I might put a roof on it. Maybe I will if it gets that bad. But I will tell you, in my lifetime, see this roof here now? The repairs that I do will not look like that. You know, that's not how bad it goes. So people are concerned about rust coming back. Yes, it's going to come back. It's not going to come back like this. I'll have a scattered bubble coming out on the roof here and there. I'm not putting a lot of money into the body and paint on this. This will be getting like a rust paint. Probably this year, it won't get nothing at all. It'll probably be just get this here be primed and that'll be it. All right? That's down the road. Like the panels on this here, like this roof is amazing. Nobody's jumped on this roof. There's not one dent in this roof. I don't know how much filler's in it. But that's it. So what I'm going to do here now, I'm just going to go ahead and start cleaning this section up. All I'm going to do is clean this up as good as I can. My plan is to keep below this crease here. I do have some rust blisters here. I'm not being too concerned with them. I'm trying to keep all my repairs below this line that goes around the front of the roof here. So I'm going to clean this up as best I can, this section here. I don't want to go getting into this up here because then I'll have to deal with filling all this up here. I would like to keep it so that all I got to do body work on is this section here. Just a little roll over the top here, and that'll be it. Once I get into welding these large flat panels like this here, I'm going to be getting into a lot of warpage. You can do that if you want to really get into detail. But on a situation like this here, personally, you should put a rough skin on it. But I'm looking at this from a standpoint, I'm a person who's like got an old rig kicking around the yard, don't have a lot of money. I want to make it look clean. I want to make it look good. And that's where it's going to end, okay? I'm not concerned about making this perfect, rust-free and all that type of stuff. You know, restore it one way. It's got to be done. You do it. If you're going to do it right. No. I'm making this look clean and drivable. And there you go. Enough babbling. I'm going to start cleaning this up. So here's where I'm to. You saw me grinding the face of this off. Didn't want to go digging into it. I got a bit of rust here, blister, a bit of blister there. That's perfect. I come in here then, I just start cutting away all those flaky stuff, grind it off. What you see here now, that's the way that's going to stay, okay? I have down here, I have a section of the lip that's really bad, and I just cut it off, but I left the drip rail there, and I'm going to weld a piece in here first. That'll weld to this lip here from down here. And it'll actually weld in here because this here is supposed to be attached to this here. The original, here's the way it's supposed to be, like this here. This is supposed to come down and weld on here, and that will be the drip rail here. Have a small piece to put in here. I'm going to do these quick repairs on this here before I actually make the outside piece. Now, one thing I've noticed here is that the actual roof is dropped because everything is let go. So I got to raise this up a bit. I think I'm going to take a measurement here and see if this here is pretty well straight. It tapers back here on the back side. I might leave it alone, I don't know. But I think it's got to come up a small smidgen like so. That's probably what I'll do. But a lot of you guys now that come in here and want to see me doing perfect metal work, this is not the video for you, okay? This is how I used to do these repairs years ago. The key with it was we had to clean it up, get it out the door, and get it done. And I can honestly tell you, a lot of the cars that I done this with are still around today. Back in the 80s, and in the 70s, when guys were doing up cars, they never had the option that we have today. Buying quarter panels, buying fenders. I can remember like a 60s Camaro, 68 Camaro. You can get, I think you can buy rear quarter panels for it, and that was basically it. And there were scratch panels. There was that you welded on over the top of what you already had there, and that's what you had to deal with. And there was many a car show that I went in there, and the Camaros that were in there had them on it, and they were all soldered up. They had floors brazed in them, but they were all cleaned up and painted. Some of them cars are still on the go today. It just did not, never did look nice, okay? When you stripped it down and you saw it all. I see a lot of people stripping stuff down and taking filler off of cars and saying, look at this mess here, look at this mess here. They have to realize that's the way it was back in the day. I don't tend to get carried away with this here, going foolish with welding this all up. I want to weld something in here to give strength back to this here, and all I want to have is so it's welded on. I'll probably fill this later, but down in here, this will all get seam sealer. I'll put a big glob of seam sealer right on down here and smooth it out my finger this way here, and just build it up nice and high. The problem with these old trucks was that they were assembled, and there was no paint on nothing. All this rust that you see here, that was all bare metal. It's the reason why you don't see Arizona trucks rusting out is because all this bare metal is still perfect on them. You take an Arizona truck and bring it up here for 2 winters, gone. I can guarantee you that. This here will all start rusting out. There'll be all kinds of debris and everything down here. And it used to hold a lot of debris and everything down between the two panels from inside the cab. Now you think about, you got heaters in an old truck in the northern climates. So you're driving around all winter with snow built up on your roof, the heater going crack, so all this up here is getting moist and sweating, and all the water has to go somewhere, so it goes down in these crevices here, and all this stuff goes like this. So if you got one of these trucks that's mint, I can honestly tell you, this all here is bare metal. And that's the stuff you got to be careful with. You got to spray stuff in there to try to save them. But like today's cars, all this is painted before it's reassembled. I'm going to throw a bit of paint over the top of this. Not going to get carried away with it, because this will outlast me, what I'm going to do with this here, and it's not going to be the prettiest. Let's get welding up. These are the door skins off the Crown Vic. I just cut them here and hung on to them. This is the metal I'm going to use. I have rust on the bottom of this here, so I'm going to go up here right at this belt line and cut this off now, off straight. And I'm going to start bringing the metal this way and cut the strips off of this here. This is all garbage, I'm not going to use this here. And then I can go from there with any other pieces that I want to use off of this. So I'll go ahead now, I'll get a strip cut off of this here and get a piece made up and cleaned up and ready to install. So here's the piece I cut out. Cut it out of this section right here. I grinded the paint off it. I left everything on the back side alone. Not worried about it. That's a protective coating because this is going to be facing up. Then I went over and I cut it off the length, and then I notched the ends of it. And I'll show you why I notched the ends of it there now. Let's go over and fit that place, and I'll show you how I'm going to weld that place. If you look here, this will just fit down inside there and it'll go past where it has to go. That fit in place there. That's where that'll go, and that'll spot weld down across there, like so. And then it'll have a pressure on it down here. On the bottom side, for that I can weld to it. Now down here on the bottom, I have a lip sticking down. Not worried about it. Going to leave it there for now. I'll grind it off later. The reason why I'm doing this, it's very hard to try to butt metal like in this situation here. Very hard to do it. You got to deal with not having nothing on the back side of it blowing through it. At least if you go past it, when I push in on that now, when I'm welding to this, I got some metal past this here that I can actually weld to. So I'll clamp this in place here now, throw a few tacks on that, and then I'll turn around and go along here and I'll weld that in along there, and then that section there will be done. Nothing pretty there, I can guarantee you that. But it's nice and solid in down through there. I got a plug welded onto this here. If you look on the bottom side, now there's a lip there. I'll grind that off and make that flush again, and I'll have that little seam back down there that I can seam seal up again later on. That's the reason why I done it like this. Up here, I'll give this, oh dust. Up here, I'll give this just a quick clean up now, knock the heads off it. I won't get carried away with it. All my strength is right here I don't want to go trying to make this look perfect, so I'll just take the grinding scone now, knock the head off of this here, and grind this along here, so I can run my hand along here without hooking anything. Now down here where the lip was hanging down, all I did is I took the grinder and I grinded it off. So I got the seam back there again, and I got a nice strong edge there now. The whole lip is nice and strong, all along there. Up here, you saw me going with a coat hanger. I had to do a bit of welding up here in this corner, but I got that straightened away. I can come back later on and address that more if I want to. I'm probably going to end up just seam sealing most of that anyway. Up here, this the top is done. Nothing fancy in there. I can run my hand through there now. It's a nice edge there that I can actually come down to tip out to. Like some of the plug welds are not fully welded up. I'm not worried about it. You can get carried away with some of this work sometimes, and I find that half the fun is just putting stuff together half cheap. And I'm here now trying to mock up this old cab, make a nice little driver out of it. I don't want to get into too much of a restoration. I can get carried away with this. I can restore all this and sandblast all this and do all that. If you want to do that, go right ahead. This is good enough for me. And I'm the only one that you got to please when I'm at this stuff here. So now I'm going to go ahead now. I got that all straightened away. I got one more spot back here. I got to dream up something now. The weld in there. Oofta. Again, quick and dirty. That's all this is. Get some strength into it. The strength is what I'm after. I got the piece welded in there. I'll just take the grinder now, straighten this all up. I'll cut off that bit of lip there. That's probably annoying people stuck up there in that corner. Your OCD just kicked in. And I'll give this a grind up down here. And I get ready to cap the outside of it. Got that all cleaned up. Come up here then and tidied everything up inside there. And I turn around and I just give it a dusting over there, turn it with the grinder to just finish it off. I got a nice lip along there now, it's nice and solid. Now I can start working on capping this outside edge. First thing I had to do is I had to raise the roof up and take a few measurements. And all I did is I went over on the other side, which is still partly intact, and I measured here. And I just raised this up so this here is in the same location there, because this will move it up. And that way I got lots of room down here to set everything up then when I drops it down. So I'm going to leave that there for now. But all I'm going to do is I'm going to do from about here over. I got to keep it straight. I'll do this much here from here to here. Now back here, I got a seam that comes over here and turns down here and goes through here where the roof skin was put on it. I'm on two minds what to do here because I have some work here. Now this here, the easiest thing to do here is just cap the end of it right over the whole top of that there and eliminate the seam altogether. When I get back here, I got this seam here. It gets bad over here, but the bottom part of the seam is good. But up here is where all the problem is. So, debating on what to do here. I like seams. I don't like filling in seams on cars because it'll tell you that the rig, especially 60s and 70s cars, when you see all the seams filled on them, you know there's filler in it. But when you see seams, you think it's a good car. And this is the trick I'm trying to pull off with this here to make this actual cab look like it's a good cab. So maybe I'll work on doing the seam here too. Yeah, that's going to be fun. I've done it before with a lot of them, but I'm not going to be too concerned about it right now. I'm going to turn around and make this piece up and work on this here. I think I'm just going to cut this out of my way here, because this comes up here on an angle and goes across. Yeah, you can barely see it there. It goes on an angle there, so it's almost like a 90-degree bend there. So if I come up from there straight, I should be fine. For now, I'm just going to go over and cut out a piece of steel out of that door. That's probably about that big height, and measure from about here to about here, and then cut out a piece and just start shaping it. I come over here now, and this here got a curve in it, and it's a crown panel. I just want to cut it out of it, so I drew a straight line across here, measured over the distance that I wanted, measured up the distance that I wanted up to here. You can see that line there. I'll cut that piece out of that door there now. So there's the piece I cut out. It's too long, it's too wide. I come up here and I clamped it onto the drip rail here, and I clamped it onto the drip rail here. I went in on the back side of it, scribed it all along that edge here, so I've got the shape. I'll take that off now and I'll cut that so that actually could fit down inside the pocket. I tried using a marker, but the back of these are so dirty it's not working very good, so I just used the scribe and scribe it along. I'll go over now and get that trimmed off. And that's it trimmed off, and you lay it in place there. That'll fit in there. That's the first of it. I'll go over and clean all this off. Then what I need to do, I need to come up and mark it here and put about a 1/2 inch lip all the way around here, going down along here. So that'll be the next thing I'll do, but I'll get this cleaned up first. So I got it all cleaned up, and you can see now I took a marker and marked along there about a 1/2 inch. I just roughly done that. All I did, stuck my finger on it there like that, and went, that's all I did. Never got carried away with it. Now I'm going to bend that. I'm going to use a really high-tech tool to bend this now. My drip rail bender 9000. Now this here has to be at like about a 45-degree angle. I'll take it a bit at a time. I forgot how easy it is to work with 20 gauge metal. That's what all this is. The factory stuff off the Crown Vic is all 20 gauge. Mostly all the metal work I've done on this channel is all 18, other than the Toyota. But I did put 18 into that. But I'm using this here now. This is what I got to build this project. I'm not going to buying steel. I'm not going to cut up shells. I'll use what I got. So that's all I did. I just used the vise, clamped it in, bent it over. This got to be on like a 45 because this piece goes like this on the truck. But I think I'm going to have to bend this a bit more. So I'm going to do the rest of this now with a dolly here on the bench since I got the crease already in it. And I'll just dolly it up along here. This end here seems pretty good, but it seems to like wander off this way as it gets over here. So I'll get that dollied up. We'll go for a test fit. Starting to come together there now. Up here in the front, now this is starting to turn around. So this here is going to have to be trimmed off here, because if you look down through here, the roof starts to rotate around here, about right here somewhere. So I'll cut that off there. Back here now, I'm deciding what I'm going to do back here. I'm going to build both upper and lower lips and weld to them together, and then just cut this piece out of it and weld that in there. That is the plan. But that's the idea I got in my head. I like to keep the seam there. I can repair a lot of this back here, because the sections of this here I don't have to do much with. This here I can probably repair it. I can do it all in sections. And I like to keep that seam there if possible. I'm a stickler for seams. But you can see down the lip now, this here, I'll spot weld that on down. I don't know if I'm going to spot weld it down through there or up through. Some might say use a spot welder on it. I don't want to go chancing that. It'll be the right thing for it though. Just go bzz, bzz, bzz with the spot welder. You never know. Nah, I'll just do the old one. Not everybody got a spot welder, so I'm going to do it without it. Yeah, so now I'm going to leave a lip here. I'm going to trim this off this way here, and then fold them over so that they fit like that. I'm going to have to figure out how much of this I'm going to leave there. I might just cut this off first here and just keep this. I like to get the corner done, so that way this is just a straight across this way then, right? Instead of trying to meet the actual lip on the corner itself. That way my joint will be here somewhere. Alright, I'll take it off now and start trimming that up. I am a sucker for punishment. The seam runs along there, comes down. I bent this up in the vise. That fits in there now. There's the belt line going along there. So now I'm gonna build this piece here now. I'm gonna build it and have it so it's welded onto this here, but the seam is there. I'll weld it on the back side, and I'll have a little lip on it down here, weld it across here and up along here. And that'll be that piece looked after as well, because there was a hole right here anyway, so had to be fixed. Alright, I'll go make this piece next. Nothing fancy here. There's my two little lips I'm going to bend off. And then this will be the access, and then my seam will be here. Look at that. Factory seams. All I did, it's not fancy. All I did with it, bent up another piece. I welded up these corners here. I welded up the corner on this piece, and I welded up the corner of this piece, and then shaped it so that you didn't have a raw hole there in the corner where you actually made the cut with the grinder. And then I actually put two of them together, weld them together on the back side. I fit them in place there. And on this section here, because I'm going to reuse that, there's the seam there going down to that. So now I got to trim it off up here. Get that figured out, how much I'm going to take off of that. And then I get that panel there is pretty well ready to install. So here's where I'm to. I got the piece I got holes put in it down there. And I come over here and I got it all trimmed up to fit. Now, I heard fellas talking before about rounding corners and stuff like this. I did this years ago, but not for actually doing welding. I did this for lap panels, because that's what I'm going to be doing with this here. I'm going to be lapping this panel. Round corners helps get rid of the high spot in the corner, because every time when you weld a piece in a car, if you weld a piece in, for some reason, this corner always seems to be high, this corner seems to be high. When you round it out, you kind of get it easier to flow your filler out off across it, okay? So I'm going to test fit this in place here now, just right quick. This is where that goes. And down here, right here, there'll be a butt weld, as you can see there, and it's going to come up and fade out into a lap panel. This is how I used to do it years ago when I was at stuff and just trying to get stuff done quick. And this here will weld right in along the edge of where that body line is to. And it'll just overlap there like that and weld right on there. So I'll do. And then I'll spot weld it on down through there. And then I'll come over here and I'll just run a bead up along here, weld that on, grind all that off, and that's what it'll be. Now over here, I'll probably weld this down here, but I won't weld this because I got to build a piece here as well. But I noticed I wasn't going to come right up to the top here with the piece. I'm probably going to do this type of thing with the piece to go in here. I'm going to do it all in sections as I'm going. Now there was probably a belt line that went in along here. I'm not fooling with it because I got to fill this up with seam sealer and it's only a beater, so that's it. Now what I got to do next is I gotta chemically treat and sandblast this entire area here. Sandblasting, chemical treatment, epoxy coating installed. So I went in, had a cup of tea and a few biscuits, and I turned around and I let that there set up. Then I come out here and I laid this in place, and I marked all the holes, and then I struck it with the grinder. I don't want to go fooling around with that. I want to have direct to metal contact. You know, this paint is just trying to hold, so it holds up longer. I don't expect this here to last forever, but I can guarantee you that this won't rust like it is here now in the rest of my life. I can tell you that. So I got that all ready to go there now. I want to fit that in place. Get the measurement here to make sure I got the right height on the roof here, because the roof is pretty well. I got the washers put on it there. Make sure this looks good there. Clamp that in place there and weld it on. The back of this got the factory primer from the door on it, so I never bothered doing nothing with it. I left it alone. That's perfect. So I got it all set up here now. I had to turn around. I got a wedge put in here, raised it up. I measured this distance here on the other side and set it up so that I could raise this up. If you look there now, you can actually see where the actual body line goes. It's just below that there, so you can see off the rolled edge there. What I'm going to do there now is I'm going to turn around and go ahead now and start welding that on. Not going to do the cut butt on this. This is going to be just a simple butt weld all the way along here. I'm not getting into that because it's time consuming, and then I'm afraid that this is all going to collapse on me. This is a quick patch. This is the reason why. This is how I used to do patchwork years ago. This is what my niche was. Fellas would come in with old plow trucks and everything, and I was the fella that they wanted me to weld patches in their rigs. So I used to try to figure out ways that I can weld patches up and do them fast. And this is what all I used to do, is just a simple lap and then weld it on. I get a bit carried away there, but that's perfect. I like that. Anyway, get this welded on. There you go, got it all welded up. Had some troubles trying to set the welder up because I'm so used to 18 gauge and this is 20, and then trying to get the feel for it. So I kept going back and forth. I wanted to turn up the welder down here to get lots of heat in here to weld them up. But then up here I wanted to have less heat, but I was trying to lay the weld down a bit better, and just playing around with the welder is all I was doing. But I got it all welded in there, that's the main thing. Absolutely no warpage across there, that's perfect. That there feels pretty good. I'll know when I grind it off. I'm gonna go ahead now and get that all grinded off. I never welded it here because I gotta put a piece in here, and I welded it down here. There's a bit of troubles down here, a bit of rusty metal and stuff like that. I don't know where the rusty metal come from. There's no rust on this truck, is there? Ah man, it's foolish. There you got it all grinded up. Just a simple little lap weld. If you look closely at it, you can see where it's lapped. I'm right on the edge there. You can see where I lapped it. Down here especially, you can see the lap weld. Down here, don't ever worry about trying to get that there so it looks like it's blending in. As long as the top metal is flat and your weld is the same height as that, tapered back a small bit, you'll be fine. You're going to have to fill it and build it up a small bit there. Same with up here on this edge here. That's going to have to be done. That's all a part of doing body work when it came to this stuff. It's the reason why I started using the cutting butt more. But for this, I'm just going back to my roots with this. But you see a nice little drip rail along here now. Now these did have a belt line that ran up here and ran in across here. It was probably about 3/4 of the way up. I'm pretty sure, dude, there's nothing on this truck to identify that it was there. I tried looking for it, but I did see it right here. And mine's going to fade out, and that's the way it's going to be like that. I'm not concerned about that. This is the Canadian model. The Newfoundland model, that's what this is. But that's that piece all done. Everything is all ready there now, so all I got left to do, this here had to be seam sealed, this here had to be seam sealed, a little bit of fiberglass and filler along that edge there. The roof feels perfect along there. This here, little bit of a small ripple in it, but nothing that a little skim would straighten it up as if I'm worried about it. Back here now, I got to go ahead and I got to build this up, and I got to tidy up this line here so this continues on across the back here. I don't know if I'm going to do that one first or go up there and do that corner one first. Yeah, I think I'm going to stick with this one first. I'm just going to cut that out of there now. Come back here, grind this off clean first. I'm not going to go around the corner. There's a bit of a high spot here. I'm going to take it out of it. If you look at it, it's a bit of a... I don't know if I got the straight edge or something there, but if you look back across the back there, you can see that that is high there. That section of the roof is. So I'm going to take a piece that out of there now, clean all that up, get it all, everything out of my way so I can get ready to put a piece in across here and coming down here. That'll have that lip on it. So here's what I got done. I've after cutting this section out, I've after going right around the corner and cleaning everything out, all the rust. I've after going up, chasing it up across here. I found a little pinhole here, and all I did is I just welded it up. It was a rust hole there, and I just welded it up is all I did. And I come down here and I start sizing up everything, and I got everything removed down along here. And you got to watch it because this here stuff inside here can be extremely sharp. Okay? So that started my day off wonderful. I cut my fingers on the metal in there. Now, I've done this type of work before. This is a section in a car. I've seen it on the bottom of quarter panels where they meet the rocker panels, and like between the back windows where the actual rear valance meets the quarter panel. And the problem with it is all this stuff was welded together before all the internals were put together. So it's not like something you can just get in there and just weld it on the inside. Can't happen because this here is an enclosed panel on the inside here. See, you can't get in behind it. Now, some people are trying to figure out, some people just welded this edge here. I don't like that. I like keeping this seam here. I don't know what it is with me. I just find when you have seams in a car, in a vehicle, like in the 60s and 70s and 80s, when you fill this stuff here, it just don't look right. I come from a time when cars were soldered up because they were rusty, and this stuff always got overlooked. So when I saw this stuff filled, I knew the car was full of filler. And people used to come to me and say, I want you to look at a car, and I go look at the car and the seams are big on it, so she's full of filler. And that was the extent of that. But you could turn around and put these seams back in a car and still block it full of filler, and still, but it just looked a lot nicer, okay? A lot of fellas never went through that trouble. I'm going through that trouble here because to me, I just like seams. The easiest thing to do here would be just to fill all this. and be done with it. But nah, I don't know, I just can't do it to myself. It's not something that I do. So here we are, we got a lip that we got to put back in here again now, and then we got to cover this over here. There's no way to weld that on the inside. Someone will say just bend over a piece and weld it along the edge here. That's not how I do these. A lot of times when I put quarter panels on, like I done a video on a Nova where I had to put a quarter panel skin on a Nova, and I put the body seam in the bottom side of it. What I did is I made this seam first, and I come up about 1/4 of an inch and made the actual lip. So that way this here was looked after. Didn't have to worry about it. And then I welded the quarter panel onto that. In the case of this, I'll weld a piece onto that piece there. So that way when it comes time to fill it, I can fill it to the seam, but I haven't got to worry about the seam looking off or having to grind welds and then all that type of stuff. But it's a bit of a tangly piece. I might have to make it out of 2 pieces. I'll have a piece down here and then make a piece coming across the back side here. Watch it, Tony. Don't cut the fingers off yourself again. There's some jagged metal in there. I've had to grind a few times, but it's still there. Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead now and make up the piece to go in here and show you how I do it. Just going to use that same body panel that I used on this section here. I'm just going to use all that up. Before I get started on that, I just want to touch base. It's been a week and a half, almost 2 weeks now since I've been out here at this truck. I finished off this section and I was done. If you look at this video here, it's self-explanatory. That there was me being a bull, okay? That's always been a problem for me. I've always had back problems my entire life since I've been a teenager, okay? A lot of it's because I don't know how to lift stuff and I'm just a bull when I goes at stuff. What happened here is just Christmas Eve, I think it was, my back went out. So I took a couple of days off, went back at the game. A few days later, my back went out again. So I took a few days off and I went on for a couple of weeks. Now, after cutting up of the car and everything, and I wasn't having no issues and nothing with it when I cut up the car. But what ended up happening a week ago, I was at this here and I stayed out here and I forced myself to come out and finish it off. I pulled this cab out on the floor. You can see where it's sat here now. This was in against the wall here. So all I did is I pulled it out on the floor. And I was in bed for 3 days. Couldn't even get out of bed. It's a horrible feeling, I can tell you that. I ended up saying to myself, like, let's not just take a couple of days and go back at it again. I took myself almost 2 weeks. So I haven't been at nothing now in 2 weeks. I had the truck done. I was ahead of the game on the videos. I'm behind now. This video here will be coming out this week. But like this truck's been sat here now for a week and a half, almost 2 weeks. Yeah, it's pretty well 2 weeks now because it happened on a Saturday. I think it was Saturday evening. I think it happened. But be very careful when you're doing stuff. I work by myself and everything I got doesn't run. I had to push and pull on everything here, so I got to readdress everything that I'm doing here now and make sure that I get help to move stuff and lift stuff because I'm not getting any younger. And I got this truck to finish and I got 2 customers' cars there that I got to get done. They're itching to get their cars back or get work done on them at least. And I want to get back at them and keep them guys happy. But I still want to stay on this. I just want to update you on that. I kept it myself, never said nothing about it. It's just that it's just something that happened. So look after yourself and don't be lifting stuff that you shouldn't be lifting. Like this fella here. Anyway, let's get back to it. Make a piece for that. So I got a piece of scrap steel here, another piece of that old door section. I'm just going to cut a piece out now that's too long, too wide, clean it up, bring it over and start test fitting it. So here's all I got done. I cut it out, fit it, trimmed it, trimmed it, but I got it left a little bit long so that when it fits it in there, there's still a bit of a lip on it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to find a couple of spots and I'm going to tack weld that into place. Some places that where I can actually cut it later on with the grinder because I want to leave that in place there for now. A few tacks on that there. Now you can see there's a bit of a lip there. I'm going to take the grinder now and grind all that flat. I'll try not to break these welds, but I'm going to grind them flat anyway because now I got a bit of piece to go down this way. So now that I got that done, I got it all grind flush here all the way around. So I got my shape that I want. I'm going to make another piece now to go this way here. Now all I went and did is I got another piece of metal, cleaned it up. Now I'm over here now, test fitting this here and cutting it on the angle that I want. I gotta trim this up so it'll fit into there, into that panel there. Because I can't have it straight up and down because the panel won't right. Because this angle here, it has to fit around the corner. So I have to trim it here to fit right here. So I've after trimming this now a few times so that I can actually get this to fit along that edge there. So it's got a nice fit edge around there. The angle is there now. And I got it set up so that this edge here lines up with this edge here on the bottom piece. I'm going to take this piece out now and I'm going to weld that to that. I was going to weld it on here, but I would have ended up welding it to the truck itself. So I'm going to take it off now because the biggest problem I got is getting this angle right. And this piece of metal now will have to go on this angle in order for it to weld on with a nice even seam across there. So I'll take this piece off now and weld it onto that. All I'm going to do, I got the piece taken off, is I'm going to lay that, line up this end here, this section on this end here, and then weld it across there around the end till I come to the end here, and then I'll trim off the excess that I don't need. And then I'll weld that on the inside, and I'll grind and dress that so it's got a nice lip all along here. Well, I missed the tack video. I forgot to press record on that one, but I got tacked it in place. When I got tacked in place, then I turned around, I took it and I welded it on the outside, and then I flipped it over and I welded it on the inside, and then I cooled it off. Now I'm going to grind and dress the outside so it looks like a nice rolled edge, so it will fit the seam nice right here, and that'll be the next step. The trick to grinding these, it's a little warm, is you grind it flat here, then you grind it flat here, and you're left with a sharp edge all the way around. Don't worry about the little dimples and stuff like that. Once you get that done, then go back and round out your edge along here. But grind it flat here, then work on getting your roll. As you can see, I got it all laid in place there now. Got a nice rolled edge all the way around the edge, and that fits in there nice. Now the next problem we're going to run into here is, because you can see I made this piece big, is that you can't weld it. You can either weld it along here and weld it up along here and that's it, and then you got to deal with trying to get that seam nice again. The problem you're going to run into is how do you weld this here to that there. Now what I've always done is, like you saw me weld this piece on, I wasn't too concerned about the fit up top, okay? Because I'm going to go along here now and cut this off, leave about 1/4 of an inch all the way around here that I can butt weld to, all the way along here. And then I'll actually just do the lap up here on the top just for the sake of the, then I'm doing lap welds on this one. But down here I'll do a little butt weld. So I'll go over and I'll trim off this piece. So I got a nice bit of material there that I can actually run into. But I can still got my welder in behind it that I can actually weld this panel on in the factory location. So I've gone ahead and painted all that. I got the piece already, put the holes in it, got it trimmed up. It's just this wide now. That'll fit in there. And I got it set up that I can put that in there. And you can see it got a nice seam back there again. What I'll do is I'll weld that in place. Once that's welded in place, I can make the outside piece to go on over this here. And I'll butt weld it down here. And I'll probably just overlap it up here for the sake that I overlapped everything else. It doesn't matter because I got to fill it up to the edge anyway. I can get foolish and try to butt weld it up here and not getting into it. So that's basically it for that. But you can see you got a nice seam now back there all the way along. This here, you will fill this here and this will feather out, but the seam will be nice and clean. I'll work this in here now so it looks nice. And I'll come back out around here. Then I got to work on making this piece back here. I think because it's such a small area, I might just make this up and slide it in there and weld it up here. Tack weld it in here, tack weld it in down here, not worry about trying to weld this section here because it is a very small section. And, you know, if I had it welded up here and welded down here, this here should hold itself. So they're all welded inside there, all around. So now I got a nice seam there. I welded this over here. I'm going to grind this and dress this up here now. I have my welder a bit high and I'm starting to burn up the metal because I'm not used to this 20 gauge metal. I'm so used to using 18. So I'll get this cleaned up here now and I'll start making a piece that'll go on over the top of this. So I got this piece. It's bigger than what it needs to be. What I'm going to work on is welding that to the lower section all the way along here and around this corner here. And then I'm going to trim it and shape it to fit the rest of it while it's still in place there. Because I'm going to cut this from the top side. I'm going to overlap it up here. I'm going to try to butt it over here. It's going to be butt welded down along here. And it's just going to be left jagged over here for now. So I'm going to go ahead now, get this ready, lay that in place like that, and start working my way around, get that welded in. There you have it, all welded in. On the end here, I'll leave that alone for now. I'll work with that when I get to the end of it here. Bit of troubles over here. Welding the 22 is not the same as the 18. I'm so used to the 18 that I've had to play around my heat settings, and I gotta let it cool off, because once the heat gets into this stuff, it'll just start melting itself and just keep going. So you got to stop and let it cool off and then re-weld it again. But yeah, I got that all welded in. I'm just going to take the grinder now and clean all that up. And there you have it. Got that all welded in. It's a bit low right here. I'm not worried about it. You can see the way it overlaps on the top side up here. and same as over there. This edge here got to be filled, and the body line got to be worked along here. I don't mind that. This had filler in it before. I'm not going digging into that because I don't know what's underneath it. I'm not going to remove it if I don't have to. That's going to stay there. But this is what I was after. Nice little seam all the way around here. Now, when this is all done and I got it in primer and I'm ready to paint it, I'll turn around, I'll take seam sealer, and I'll run it right along the seam all the way along there to seal that up before I paint it. But I'm going to leave all that alone right to the last point. That's when I'm going to paint it. That's if I ever go to paint it. Now, I'm just going to prime this for the year. I might seam seal it then. I don't know. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Now, I got to go back here and finish off this section. All I'm going to do here now is I'm going to trim this off here. I'm going to make the inner lip and have it so it sticks out. I'm going to make a little piece to go in here that I can lay in here and weld on, weld the inside of it. And I'm just going to slide it in, weld it up here, weld it down here, and weld it down here. I'm not going to worry about welding this section in here because it's only a small section, maybe 2 inches, and that should be fine. I might dab a weld on it here because I noticed there was brass on it before down here. So they might have welded the corners with brass. But I'll go ahead now and just make up the little tiny flat piece and get this ready to finish this off. So I trimmed it off down here because this got a belt line that comes down here and just kind of like fades off into this one here. So this is all I made up. Got an inner lip. That'll slide in there like so. And then I'll trim that to fit after the fact. But I want to get this edge here welded up and dressed up first so I can look at it to see what it looks like. And then I'll go ahead and start fitting that in there. There you got it, welded together. Look at that roll of nickels, look. Beautiful, fantastic weld. Yeah, right. Anyway, I got it welded inside, and I got it welded outside. I'm going to cut this off along here now, and then grind and dress here and get this edge here looking nice, so I can actually start fitting it in place, and I can trim all the rest of it to fit. So there's the piece, all grinded up and dressed up. So I got a nice edge on it with the roll on it, follows the belt line. That'll fit in here, like so now. And I'm going to trim that to fit in there. And I'm just going to go ahead and get it trimmed up and weld it in because this is a very small piece to try to film. So I'll bring it back when I got it welded in. So after trimming it up, all I'm doing is just going back. I want to fit it up along here and down along here. So I can trim that up there and weld it in here and weld it in down here. And then the seam is there. I'm not going to worry about cutting this off. I'm going to trim this down here and just weld it because this seam has to come down through here anyway. So, anyway, I'll get that welded in. All I'm concerned on is I got this seam looking good there. I got the piece welded on. Still got the big tab on it. I'm going to take the grinder out, trim this off here, start working this area here, and then I get it all welded in. That don't look half bad. Nice little seam all back there again. Just a simple old overlap up here on the top side of it. That's fine. Remember, this truck is just a beater. I'm having a bit of fun here now because this is stuff, I just find this stuff challenging. You could have turned around and welded all this up solid, come up here and grinded this off and welded this up and welded patches over the top of that. That would have been fine. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to have seams in there. And it even sticks up a small bit like right there, like it did from factory. Look at that, the factory that is. But I'll seam seal all that later on. But I'm happy with that. I got this section of the roof done over as far as here now. All this is complete. Back here, I was concerned about the holes and everything back here, how I was going to fit them and how I was going to do them. And now I got an idea how I'm going to do repairs over here, which is good. And I can move on from that. But in the next video, I figure I'm going to get in, tack to this corner here and work on getting this front done. Yeah, nothing fancy about this. This is the way I used to do a lot of patchwork years ago. You're always left with this little bit of welding and, you know, little spots in it here and there. People are really concerned. They see me do a lot of the metal work and everything comes out right smooth and finished. This is what I used to do for years and years and years. That there, I look at that there and I rub my hand over that there now and I say, yeah, I can blend my filler into that there perfect, right? And that's the extent of it for me. People don't like this setup. They want to have everything just so and they just assume metal finish everything. Yeah, that's fine, it's kind. The car is not worth it. The truck is not worth it. It may be worth it to some people, but to me, the only difference between this and doing it the other way was time. Okay, and I don't want to be spending months at this here doing metal finish work on it. I'm looking to patch this up, fill it, prime it, drive it, right? Possibly paint it, don't know yet. But anyway, there you go. First section on the old VIC100 project, rust repair. All the repairs have been done with the actual Crown Vic metal. I got one door skin half used up. But it's just cheap, simple and easy. Anyway, I hope the tips were good. And until next time.